Here with Byron Sebastian. You were CEO of Heroku once upon a time. You're now GM of Heroku and SVP of Platform, I believe, at Salesforce.
That's what they call me.
So it's been 6 months now, and and when the announcement was first made, there were a lot of people, myself included, that were spending a lot of time talking about how's it going to work, how's the integration going to work.
Yeah.
Kind of recently, I've sort of been thinking that that's actually a little bit simple. That Salesforce is kind of the embodiment of this sort of two-stage platform as a service approach that I've kind of thought about, which is on the one hand you've got infrastructure PaaS, which is Heroku, which is the people that want to get down and get a little bit dirty, and I know you said before about both you and Mark hate servers, but at the end of the day, the stuff you've recently introduced is allowing people to do a little bit of stuff down the dirty stuff. And
you still don't have to think about servers, but you're absolutely right. We're giving people more and more control and flexibility.
And then at the other hand, you have what I'm calling software PaaS, which is obviously Force.com, which is a lot more declarative, a lot higher level.
Yes.
And there doesn't actually need to be a significant, crossover between those two things, because they're two very different use cases.
They're two very different use cases, different types of developers. You need to be able to integrate those applications together. So if you have a bunch of Force.com developers building, what they tend to build are very data-driven, data-centric applications with lots of forms and tables, most often intranet applications. And then Heroku, as you know, is much more sort of customer-facing web applications in Ruby and in Node. So you're absolutely right. There are different layers of abstraction for different audiences and different use cases. And this is kind of my job, and this is part of why you rattled off all of the titles that they gave me. That's part of why they did that, just to make sure that if you want to integrate the two together, you can. And we're making sure that's happening as well. But you're absolutely right. The developers have different skills. They have different expectations for what they want from a platform, and being able to give different types of developers a platform that's designed specifically for them is a good thing.
Sure. And I guess giving developers the ability to prioritize queues and do all that sort of stuff is really important to them. I guess
you're referring to the Heroku process model.
The
Cedar stack we just launched. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great stuff. And I've been talking to developer friends who said that it's really game changing for them. I guess to a certain extent, Force.com is going to develop further in the software area, and Heroku is going to give more and more control towards the infrastructure area. How does that work in terms of how it feels as an organisation? Because I don't see you, beyond the integrations you've got, getting that much closer together, the two offerings.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I said, in that you have to be able to integrate, our customers have to be able to integrate their applications together if they want to. And so we need to make sure that we have a really strong story for how they can easily integrate the applications together when they want to. And then there are a lot of cases when there are customers who are just going to be using Heroku and that's not a requirement, or others are just going to be using Force.com. And there, the overall philosophy is choice, so that you can choose what you want to be using together. But as far as the evolution of the platforms go, yes, Force.com is focused more and more on this abstraction layer, on this productivity for the developers who want the layer of abstraction. An example, just to give you an example, while Heroku introduced the new process model, Cedar, for more power and control, Force.com, we've recently brought out the visual workflow editor. So visually you can construct workflows and automate workflows in those ways. Again, very visual for that sort of developer. And then at Heroku, of course, you can build applications that have workflow, but you're doing that with processes using our proc file model for that.
Sure. And in terms of the organisational stuff, it's been 6 months now. How's it working in terms of behind the scenes? How separate? How combined? How does that look?
It's working great, and I think a key reason why it's working great is you mentioned sort of core philosophies of the companies being aligned. Being aligned around cloud. We don't have any debates about private cloud and should we be doing that. Everybody understands that public cloud is really where the value is and where the future is moving. I talked about the abstraction away of servers. We believe in that. And then we also see architecturally for where applications are moving, They want applications are becoming more social, they're becoming more mobile, they're becoming more real time. So we see the usage patterns and the value proposition to the company, to the customer being similar. So because we're aligned in a lot of ways, there's not a lot of integration at that level that needs to be happen because we have the common beliefs in common. And then beyond that, in general, it's just a good philosophy when you have development teams to keep development teams small, to keep them focused. Very often when you have hundreds of developers working on something, you're less efficient than when you have, a dozen or a couple of dozen really focused, really motivated, great developers. And so that's kind of an approach we just take organizationally. Where Heroku, we're keeping that team relatively small. It's grown, but Heroku is on such a pace of innovation. We're just letting that run, that innovation. But then of course on the sales side, and there's synergies as well, where we're talking to CIOs. Heroku are talking to CIOs who we wouldn't have otherwise. A couple of months ago, we did an announcement with Accenture, where Accenture is building out a practice around Ruby in Heroku, and that's probably a conversation we wouldn't have had in the Salesforce that introduced us into Accenture. So because I'm kind of still a technologist at heart, one way to think about it is loose coupling between the teams and the organizations, and that's how we thought about it.
Okay. And so we've got, I guess, a couple of months till Dreamforce, but
Dreamforce is going to be exciting. It
kind of strikes me a little bit that there's a Dreamforce as an event is kind of a little bit disconnected in that there's obviously the suit and tie brigade, and then there's the suit and tie brigade,
yes.
And then there's the developers. Is it time,
yes.
do you think, for a specific developer conference?
I think it probably is.
Right.
It probably is.
Okay. And some exciting announcements at Dreamforce from you guys?
Dreamforce is going to be big. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.